we are going to think about the myth that major equals career. That's a myth. It's a myth because we don't train you for a job. We train you for a life. We train you with a set of skills. The people here tonight are going to talk to you about using your skills, because as a language major or minor, you are developing a set of skills that will serve you the rest of your life. So we're going to hear from people tonight who know how to use those skills. We're going to first hear from our language instructors, then we're moving on to Bill and Sally from the Career Center and the Overseas Opportunities Office. I put in a plug for Bill because Bill's known all over the world as an expert in this field, so you have a great advantage in having Bill here at this campus. And then we're going to hear from Jaquelyn and from the Peace Corps. So thank you very much. Hey.
I teach Chinese and Asian languages and cultures. I guess I could start with a spiel about our department, briefly. There are basically 3 approaches to getting a degree in Asian languages and cultures. And all of them in all of them, you pretty much view language proficiency as a tool, not a goal in and of itself. We have, you can get you can do an Asian studies concentration in which you choose a major track, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, South Asian, or Southeast Asian. And in that, it requires a minimum of 4 semesters of language study. Second option is you do an Asian language minor, where you pair the language with something else. We have students who do it with anthropology, poli-sci, business, linguistics, engineering, sports medicine. Your imagination is the limit. And lastly, a double major, and that is, I guess, self-explanatory. As I said, most of our Chinese language students pair language study with another field. So, sorry.
We have 2 Chinese majors, one in the back and right up here. Right, I know.
Anyway, so I thought I would just give you a list from some information I gathered of what people are doing with their Chinese language skills, and in some cases with other languages in our department. We have a couple students, they were grad students here. They became well-known Chinese language comedians in China.
No kidding.
Yeah. Doing stand-up comedy called xiangsheng. And they have also established Chinese language teaching careers. A student who did an internship for his public policy degree this summer and ended up with Direct Relief International helping out with earthquake relief. So it was very interesting. Another student who's worked for the U.S. State Department in China and for CNN. Another working for the U.S. Embassy in Beijing in their visa section. Another started a company that serves as a liaison between U.S. and U.S. car companies and businesses in China and Thailand. Another works for a consulting firm in Shanghai, but also does, interestingly, historical restoration and preservation in Shanghai, where he gives tours of historic buildings. So some pretty interesting stuff here. A couple others work for the U.S.-China Business Council in both Beijing and Shanghai. Another taught at international schools in Beijing and Shanghai. Another worked for an international educational exchange program in China. One student became the China Initiatives Coordinator at the U of M, where she used Chinese to communicate with Chinese colleagues. Other instructors have told me that they have students doing, working for companies doing international trade, other departments of the American government besides the embassy, working for study abroad programs like CET, working for non-governmental organizations in China, and also working for Chinese media, for newspapers, TV reporters, translators. So I think the message here is your imagination is the limit. The key here, to me, the key is whatever you study, do it well. Learn it thoroughly. Leave here with advanced proficiency, because it's possible. You have here an extraordinary environment for language learning. You have the Language Resource Center, technology for computer use with non-Roman fonts. audiovisual materials, language-specific conversation partners, language tutors. You have the International Institute, centers offering lectures on a huge range of topics. I mean, if you look at signs posted everywhere, you see the possibilities for learning not only the language, but also about the country and history, culture, all kinds of things. With respect to Asia in particular, you've got Center for Chinese Studies, Center for Japanese Studies, Center for Korean Studies, Center for South Asian Studies, and Southeast Asian Studies. And they're constantly having lectures and visitors, and there are constantly things to do. There are also departments with established relationships in China. I understand psychology sends students, there's a lot of China-related research now, and students are going there and using language skills in combination with their psychology training. In chemistry, they're currently, I understand, working to set up a program where students can do part of their degree in China. Architecture's been sending students to Beijing. Mechanical engineering has a standing relationship with Shanghai Jiaotong University. And public health students are doing work in China, and that's a really big thing now, public health issues in China. So really, and then of course, the Office for International Programs to find a program for going overseas that works best for you. Also, in this, I find especially interesting, I mean, with the web, the sky's the limit. I mean, you have access to this extraordinary, basically infinite resources from dictionaries, audio files for practicing listening, language learning materials in general, news broadcasts, articles, travel info, pictures, you can go on forever. And this is especially interesting to me because when I went to China for the first time 25 years ago, there was no web, no cell phones. What else was missing?
Email.
No email, right. And if you tried to make a phone call, it could take you half an hour to get through. The phone conversation would last for 30 seconds. It'd be, hello, 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 and it would be disconnected. And it was also extremely expensive to make long-distance phone calls. I remember calling a very dear relative of mine, talking for this wonderfully long time, and finding out later it was $500. She forgave me. Anyway, I think you should have very high expectations as to what you come out with, because you can do it. You can do it very successfully. With respect to immersion experiences, and I can speak a little more for Chinese than anything else, you can get a lot of insights from our Asian Languages and Cultures website. They're just updating some stuff that's supposed to be ready by the end of October. Links to various programs. There are a couple documents in particular, links to selected universities nationwide, plus a subset of those which we are more familiar with and can recommend. I think the other message here, I think, is that the discipline it takes to learn a language well is the same discipline it takes to do well in any field you choose. That is, learning how to pace yourself, avoiding the most common pitfall among students, and that is procrastination in capital letters, right? To learn a language well, it is so cumulative, you have to time your preparation to get the most out of it. And you also have to, pace yourself so that you divide your time up wisely, do things on time, and do them thoroughly. So I think, I guess, did I mention, in Asian Languages and Cultures, we teach 16 languages. I have a list here, but maybe I'm out of time.
Yeah, not that people don't want to learn more about Thai or any of the other Asian languages, because there are some wonderful study abroad programs in these other languages as well. But I want to move on to the other language instructors, but I do want to say, one of the things you should be thinking about when you're listening to these presentations is vocabulary. And I know you all know what vocabulary is, because that's what you study all the time. But what you're trying to get tonight is a vocabulary to use when you go out to job interviews. I know. When you go out to job interviews, I love when my students go. When you talk to your parents, we know how your friends are saying Chinese. Well, we know about Chinese because we know people can get jobs in China. But Russian. Well, we know about Russian. You can get jobs in Russia. French. What are you going to do with French? You know, your friends are asking you that. Parents are asking you that. You're looking for vocabulary tonight that you can use when you talk to your parents and your family and your friends, because you're going to hear that. You're going to hear how you can have that conversation. So be attentive to the kinds of things that Professor Grande is just talking about. Discipline, pacing, learning how to time yourself. Because you're learning that in these languages. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Hi, I'm Rachel Criso, and I teach French, but I'm here as the representative from the Romance Language Department, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about possibilities in Arabic afterwards. First of all, can I ask who has already studied abroad? Just out of interest.
Oh,
so it's a
excellent.
good number already, yes. So, and the usual sophomore.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Can we do that? Any freshmen here tonight?
Can you move this way so you're on camera?
Oh. Hello. Okay, so
Nice
what comes
try,
next?
Rachel.
Sophomore? Okay, juniors and seniors? Okay, oh, lots of seniors. Okay, great. So it's great that you guys are thinking about what can I do with my language as a career, and of course there are many, there's a many number of things you can do, but the best thing is that you are thinking about it and not just stepping out of the door of U of M and saying, okay, here I am, world, give me a job. So, of course, there's graduate school, there's going into teaching. Those are the obvious things, and translating. Those are, what most people think that people do when they walk out of here with a language degree. And those are great careers and great possibilities for everybody as well. If you want to go into more of the business world or private sector, that too is a great thing to do with your languages, any language. As a general comment, I would say that even if you go into a job that has nothing to do with your language, the person interviewing you, when they find out you can speak, be it French, even Spanish, but Chinese or Russian or whatever it is, they are always more impressed than if you don't speak a language. Learning a language says something about a person that some people are jealous of or really want. It's a skill that people want to have. So I think just that alone is a good stepping stone for when you carry on into your careers. So the next thing I want to say is studying abroad is great. What is even better? Working abroad. Getting some international work experience. You can walk into a job interview, and again, not necessarily do directly with the language that you learn and say, oh yes, 2 summers ago I worked in an office in Shanghai. Like, oh, you didn't sit in a classroom full of American students with possibly an American teacher that may be in a foreign country, but you're actually working and living in that language and hopefully producing a product for that company, whatever it might be, or providing a service for them. So that would be it's my little axe to grind, is that I think that is one of the best things you can do for yourselves whilst you're here, if possible. And because of that, I created an internship program. And the first one I have is in French. You can get credit for that, not unfortunately if you're graduating, but if you're coming back the following fall, you can get credit. I run a program where we place students in jobs in France, Belgium, Switzerland. We've moved into Morocco, and there are people who have gone to Senegal, but people who've also gone to Quebec and done jobs in French-speaking environments. So if anybody is interested in pursuing that, you do need to have good French skills to do that. I'll say that off the bat. I've left some flyers over there, and they're the pink ones for French. And there's a little application form on the back, and you can get that to me. And, we can get the ball rolling with anybody who's interested in doing that in French.
Okay, my name is Kalli Federhofer, and I teach in the German department, and I'm also the academic advisor, undergraduate concentration advisor for German there. And I've done advising for the past 10 years, and when I started advising, I had probably the same question that you have. Why would anybody study German and do this as a major or as a minor? What job opportunities are out there? And so in the past few years, I've collected information what our students have been doing, and even though, Anna, I may not be on this, on your film that you put on YouTube any longer, I just want to show you, these are now real examples what students have done, and don't think that if you study in a foreign language, you're now locked into this foreign language for the rest of your life. Some of you may have this fear, oh, I choose one concentration, and so for the rest of my life I have to work in Spanish or in German or in Russian. you see a breadth of experience, and the experience that I don't have is, for instance, doing anything with overhead, let alone with PowerPoint. I have this also printed out because it may be difficult for me to use this anyways. So these are now students who have majored in German. I don't know whether you can see anything.
Okay.
So these are jobs that students have taken after they graduated here from the university. And you see many, I think, who are majoring in a language are eventually double majoring. I think many of you will consider not just getting a Spanish degree, but Spanish and economics, Spanish and history. And you see here jobs, you see somebody who's in banking, and even though this person has a history degree, a German history degree, and this speaks on behalf of what Rachel said, try to also do an internship while you're studying here. Many of you do extracurricular activities, but try to enhance and even augment your resume by working somewhere in the US maybe, or working abroad. And these are entrance level jobs, so don't think, okay, you will start out as a CEO. I mean, you know that this is probably impossible. We had some people here working for Porsche and VW. What a number of students do here, a number of seniors, and I'm sure many of you who are seniors, you have no idea what you're going to do after you graduate. I think this is fairly normal. You just want to be finished with your degree. There are opportunities to work for 1 year. We just did Fulbright interviews. That's always a possibility. I mean, those who are majoring in German and who are now seniors and don't know what to do next year, there are Fulbright teaching assistantships for English at German and Austrian high schools. The application for teaching English in Germany already passed. This is always at the beginning of September for the following year. So anybody who wants to start in the fall of 2009 had to apply by September of 2008. However, if you want to go to Austria, there the application deadline is only in February of the same year. So those who are in Germany can still apply to teach and be a teaching assistant. You don't need to have a teaching certificate in the following year then. We have a number of students who pursue graduate degrees here, master's degrees. There's a graduate degree for education, the so-called MAC program, which is an accelerated Master of Arts with certification. This is, I think, a 15-month program, so you receive a master's degree and a teaching certificate, which allows you then to teach actually in 40 or 45 different states here in the US. And I just want to rush through here the programs for PhD level. And there you see actually this breadth of education that you have. And if you just were to look at the names where we have now students, and of course you can't read it, where they are pursuing now PhDs. And if you look at the left side, okay, Toronto, Massachusetts, then we have somebody at Yale, Penn, Emory, Harvard, MIT. These are universities where it's difficult to get accepted. I think even you may have applied as an undergraduate there. Berkeley, we have a number of students for German, Stanford, Princeton. This is what a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan enables you to do. So don't think you sell yourself short. Many of these students here, and I must admit this to PhD, they also struggled, as you do right now, probably finding a job. For 1 year, you may have taught at a Fulbright institute, or some people just stay here, and this is fine. Don't despair if for 1 year you haven't found your career yet. And just try to figure out what do you want to do. And you find here so much pressure among your peers who may be in the business school, who may be engineers, and you think, oh, it's much easier for them to find a position. These are sometimes students here, I must admit, on the PhD level who applied only 2 years after they had finished their studies here. But with a degree from Michigan, and I don't leave any university out here, you get accepted at excellent programs. But my advice to seniors would be, take a step back in your senior year and don't overload your schedule with things. You do so many extracurricular activities that you have no ideas anymore. What am I really interested in? Or do I just follow a pattern that my parents have done and I feel I have to do it even though I'm not so much interested in it? So many students want to go to law schools, and if you look, we have more people actually at law schools than we did anything with German. And this is now just alphabetically listed here. We have this year 2 students who started law school at Harvard, and you may think, well, you know, this is something that is out of my reach. One person actually was a manager of Starbucks here on South University for 2 years before he started this law school program. And of course, you look here at a student who has a very high GPA, admittedly. I mean, for being accepted into any of these law schools, you must have very good GPA, but you also see in a foreign language, just from a pragmatic point of view, it's easier to get a good GPA than it were if you took one of these hard sciences like biology or biochem. I mean, this is unfortunately.
Maybe not Chinese.
Maybe not Chinese. That's right, Chinese. And then going to medical school. I mean, we also have, of course, a number of students here who are in medical schools or who want to go to medical schools. And there I talked to somebody who was on the admissions board here for the medical school, and he said, okay, we are looking actually for students who are not monochrome. Many of the students who want to go to medical school think, okay, I have to work in the lab, I have to do biology, and I need to be good in this subject. But he said, okay, they are looking at students who excel in something else, apart from these hard sciences. And you see here the background that these students have: German and Mark. Mark is a program that no longer exists. It's medieval and Renaissance studies. German comparative literature. There's somebody with German economics who is now in San Francisco doing residency. They have been accepted here. So think about it, getting a well-rounded education here. And one of the things that also you, Rachel, had said is study abroad, doing an internship abroad. For German, some of you may know this, we have also an organization with somebody who is half-time employed by the German department, half-time employed for an organization called CDS, and they are looking for summer internships in Germany, just in Germany, not in Switzerland or Austria. And you also get academic credit for that, and you get financial subsidies from the German department. There is also a career fair for German this Thursday in the Michigan League. If you haven't applied, you needed to actually register for this. If you haven't done that, you can still go there, even if you haven't done anything before. And it's this Thursday from 5 to 7. You'll find a blue form. It's this blue form on the table. This organization, CDS, also provides internships in Spain and in South America. And I put some flyers out there for Spain and South America as well. But think about these great opportunities that you have, and I know you pay a lot of money here to be a student at Michigan. And I think part of the advantage that you have being a student here is finding this wealth of information. And I know what we tell you is even overwhelming for you right now. You get some information from her, from Rachel, and I tell you something, and we are only halfway through. But at least you have these resources here, and make use of them. Thanks.
Professor Rammuny points out that especially since September 11th, there's been a major increase in the demand for Arabic and an increase in the way the department structures itself. So they've expanded their curriculum to include courses in business, media, Arab society, and cultures. So they also have a master's certification program. His statement is that we need to respond to the challenge of globalization and internationalization, where today's employees need to speak more than one language and function in more than one culture as global citizens. That's absolutely true. So he says that the diligent study of Arabic can lead to exciting careers in various fields, such as communications, not just translation, but reporting, teaching, training, international finance. International business is just business practice on an international scale. There's no such thing as a real field of international business. So understanding another culture can be crucial in understanding the business of that culture. And industry. I have a student who is working on an oil rig off the coast of Dubai. Working in government, obviously, in foreign service, but also as program officers in intelligence analysis, government relations and translation, and in academia. So lots of opportunities for working just beyond the field of translation. Okay? And as we know, companies are expanding into And Arabic companies are expanding here. So the opportunities for Arabic grads are going to be very important later on. So to speak about career opportunities, I would like to hear from our representative.
Hopefully, what you're hearing is, the good news is, if you want to use your language skills, you can do anything you want. And that's also sort of overwhelming, sometimes bad news. Holy cow, I can do, sure. The good news is you can do whatever you want, and hopefully you've heard that already. The bad news is you can do whatever you want, and it's hard to put a focus around that. But I want to go back to something Susan started with, and that is it's all about skills. From an employer perspective, she's absolutely right. It's not major equals career. It's major equals a set of skills that you're developing that you combine with the set of skills that you're developing through your extracurriculars, through your volunteer work, through study abroad, through all of the activities that you're involved in, so that when you come out of school, you have a set of skills that then you can bring to the table for an employer. There are some obvious big exceptions to that. If you want to be an actuary, you need to be a math, actuarial science, or stats major. But for most career fields, a lot of the ones that you saw on this list here, a lot of those employers recruit through our office. And so what you want to do is think about what are the skills that I want to develop in addition to my language skills, and then think about what are the career fields that can draw on those skills that I want to put to use. Then the question becomes, how do I find out about those career fields? And so a couple things I brought with us. One is, hopefully you picked up one of these career guides. We've developed these with the departments, and the front side takes a look at what are the skills that you're developing within a particular major, and then the back side takes a look at what are some career fields that draw on those skills. It's not meant to be the be-all, end-all list, but a way to get you started thinking about, gosh, as a French major, I'm developing this set of skills, and oh, I can use it in lots of different ways. And so we've got them for a variety of majors. They're also online through our website, so if you prefer the online version, you can get it that way. If you picked up this little blue handsheet, what I did is took a quick couple pages out of our career handbook that you can also pick up online or through our office. And there's a couple things in here that I think are good resources to tap into as you're thinking about, all right, I know I want to use my language skills, but how do I put that to use, and how can I connect it with the other things that I'm interested in? On our homepage, you can see alumni profiles, alums who have graduated in the last 3 to 5 years, talking about careers that they're doing. And you can look at it by career fields. You can also look at it by major. And there are a couple in there that I thought were interesting in terms of major. One of them is in publishing. And while she doesn't use literally her language skills every year, she's using the skills that she developed as a French major in the copywriting and copy editing that she's doing. She says it gives her an understanding of language and how the complexity and the nature of language that she uses that skill on a daily basis. There's also someone who is working with a human rights organization and using her skills every day with French language. I can also tell you a couple staff people, student staff in our office. One who graduated just this last year is in Central America teaching English in a school there. Another one of our student staff is working with an advertising agency in Chicago and using her Spanish skills in the advertising industry as they're trying to develop their market in the Hispanic community. So again, lots of different ways, and the alumni profiles on our website are kind of a fun way to look at that. Couple other things, if you look at the very bottom of this page, there's a section on our website that's called Majors and Careers, and gives you a chance to think through, again, that connection between your skills you're developing and careers. And there's a couple websites in particular that I want to plug. One is called ONET, and if you haven't seen this before, it's an awesome website that's put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the government agency that does all the what's going on in our labor market stuff. And it's a great career exploration tool because you can plug in a particular career field. Okay, everyone talks about consulting. What is it? You can get in there and see what does a consultant do on a day-to-day basis? What kinds of tasks are they involved in? What kinds of abilities do they have to have? My favorite part of it is what kinds of values around work does someone in a particular career field need to have? And you can also search it by skills. So you could put in particular skills that you're trying to use and develop a list of careers and take a look at that.
What was the website again? Yeah.
It's called ONET, and it's a really bizarre, the URL doesn't always make sense to me, but if you go into Google and just do ONET, it's the first one that pops up, or you can link through our website. The other one that's very similar to it is called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's still called the Handbook, but it's online. And it's another great tool for what are the careers that are out there and getting more information on the labor market for those careers, potential earnings, how you have to prepare for those kinds of careers, what kind of preparation and training that you need to have. That's another really good source to look at. So for those of you who are sort of in the, I know I want to use my language skills, but not sure how I can connect that to a career, those are kind of starts for things to look at. If you flip back to the last page of this where it says launching your career and job internship search, for those of you who are ready to, look, I know the career field I want to go into, I know what skills I want to use, now I need to find the jobs. A couple things I wanted to point out here. Career Center Connector is our online recruitment service. It's sort of a combination of on-campus interviewing and scheduling those on-campus interviews for employers who come to our office. It's also the place that we post all the jobs and internship postings that we get. And my initial thought was, gosh, I don't think we get a ton of international, but I went in there today to take a look to see, and there was a lot more than I thought. And in the process, there was investment banking and consulting and what was this one that was really interesting? Oh, a research position. What was the other one? Center for Defending the Freedom of Journalists, so a not-for-profit. So some really interesting, if you're ready to look for the positions. I think it's also fun to go in there and just look at what's posted, because it starts to give you ideas of what careers might I be interested in. This one sounds really interesting. Gosh, I'd be willing to write a cover letter for this one, versus, yuck, people actually do that. And you'll start to see themes to what do you like, what don't you like. The other thing I wanted to point out is we have gone out and done some Googling, identified some websites that we think are good starting points, and then grouped them by career field. And you see some of those listed on this sheet as well. And in the process of, I visited some of those sites to see what we had. And most of them are a little more national in scope, but they have geographic searches. So I went to one that was for under the media and communications, and it's a journalism position in Geneva. And so I think if you go in and do geographic searches or keyword searches, you can find some interesting opportunities that way. And bottom line, come and chat with us. We have advising every day, and we can help you sort of think through where do I go with this information. There's so many resources on campus. What are ways to tap into it, how to stay in touch, and stay on top of everything that's happening. So that's a quick highlight.
Okay. So I'm Bill Nolting at the International Center, and many of you may get our emails. We try to keep you, in tune with what opportunities there are for gaining international experience. That could be studying abroad, and a number of other ways to go abroad, and in particular internships and work experience. That's one of the things that we have helped many U of M students find every year, and about 1,000 or so U of M students do find an internship every year abroad, or research, or volunteering. So a lot of students do actually manage that. Let me just ask, how many of you want to work abroad? Okay. And how many of you want an international career? All right. And I asked those as separate questions because they are, in a way, different things. That is, to work towards the international career, it's kind of a long process. Also, you'll want to have my handout. It's called Foreign Languages Work Abroad and International Careers, because I'm referring to that. And if you look in this handout, you'll see a list of many biographies of about half a dozen U of M students who ended up working in international careers. And I think you'll find their career paths interesting. But basically, in terms of a foreign language is always a plus for an international career. On the other hand, it's rarely the main focus of international work, unless you're teaching a language or unless you're translating or interpreting. And if anyone's tried that, it's not easy work and it's hard to make a living at. However, foreign languages are often crucial for work in other professions that aren't strictly the language itself. And some examples are diplomacy, international development and relief work, international business, health, engineering, academia, of course, and education more generally. However, you won't necessarily be working in the language. You'll be using the language to get your job done from time to time, or maybe not even that. Maybe it's just an entry-level credential. You're just expected to have learned the foreign language. That's true for something like the State Department, where foreign language, whether you know a foreign language or not, isn't a criterion for whether you get into the State Department. That's just a matter of passing their Foreign Service Officer examination. Once you get into the Foreign Service, yeah, you must learn foreign languages to make any progression in that career. And if you enter the State Department knowing a foreign language, that's a huge edge, and it makes it easier to learn other foreign languages. But to look back at the things that lead to the international career, I'd single out at least 4 areas. One is probably the most important: expertise and experience in a discipline and a profession. I remember a report from one student who was a musician who said the best way to work abroad is to become a world-class musician. All right, obviously. And I think that that's actually true in every field. Second, knowledge of foreign languages. And I would also stress the ability to write well in English. That's what we've heard from countless of professionals who are on the panels that are coming up in the International Career Pathways series. And mid-career professionals talk about how important being able to express yourself well and concisely is. Third would be an in-depth experience working, that is living abroad. For some of the major organizations, 2 years is what they're looking for. You know, the Peace Corps as one way to go about that. And then last but certainly not least, I would just say the ability to present your international credentials in a way that is meaningful to employers and graduate schools. So one short way to put that would be beyond awesome. You know, it's so awesome to be in Paris. But I heard the head of HR, international HR for one major corporation say that if he had an interview with someone who was applying for a job, and he said, "What do you want to do? What do you want to be doing in our corporation 5 years from now?" And so the guy says, or the girl says, "I want to be working at your office in Paris." And so the HR guy says, "Well, that would be the end of the interview because it shows that he's more interested or she's more interested in the personal life than in working for my company." So, you know, it's essential in terms of how you present your international experience. One other brief set of things is there was a study in 2004 by the Grande Corporation of international employers in terms of what they were looking for in their employees that would do international work. First was cognitive skills, the problem-solving and analytical skills. Second, interpersonal skills. Third, tolerance for ambiguity and adaptability. Fourth, cross-cultural competence. And fifth, personal traits like self-reliance and dependability. There were 19 characteristics surveyed, and the last ranking was fluency in a foreign language. Did that mean that the international employees devalued language fluency? Absolutely not. It's just that it's important in the context of all of those other skills. And if you have those skills that are important to the employer, then language fluency is really important, particularly if they're looking at actual international assignments. In terms of how to gain international experience, I've listed some possibilities in this handout, so you want to pick that up. And there's the International Opportunities Fair, Thursday, October 23rd. And about 55, probably 60 organizations will be coming to that. And many of those offer ways to gain first-hand experience working or doing an internship abroad. Just to name a few of these, there will be about 7 or so corporations that have, or organizations that offer career positions. This is Catholic Relief Services, the CIA, Contact Singapore, Infosys in India, Industrial Technology Research Institute in Taiwan, John Snow, which is a Boston-based international health and relief consultant, and the State Department, the U.S. State Department. Sally every year invites over 100, I think it's 150 corporations and organizations that have international career positions, and we end up with 7 at this fair. That's not to say that it's hard to find international work. And the other kinds of organizations that come to this fair make that easy because they are programs, and their specialty is sending students and graduates abroad in an internship or for a fellowship or for a postgraduate work abroad program so that you can gain that experience.
Finally, we want to hear from Jaquelyn from the Peace Corps. I'm thinking as I'm listening to Bill and Sally talk, that one of the things they're talking about is integration. They're asking you to integrate your talents and your skills into one coherent package that you present to employers. And that's a difficult thing to do. But in fact, you all can do it. The language skill in itself involves integration on a lot of different levels. So one of the ways you can test that is to work abroad or to study abroad or to work through a program like the Peace Corps. So Jaquelyn's going to talk a little bit more about opportunities in the Peace Corps.
So hi everyone, I'm the Peace Corps representative at UM. I was in the Peace Corps in West Africa and Mali, and I was a small enterprise development volunteer. I came in with some French language skills and learned Bambara during my Peace Corps training. Peace Corps is a 27-month opportunity for American citizens to work abroad in developing countries. And we work in a variety of sectors, from education to agriculture to environment to business, what else? Health, lots of different options. And then the bottom line is we're in about 70 countries, and volunteers learn over 200 different languages. Peace Corps is a great opportunity to not only help others in the community in which you're placed, but to also engage in cultural exchange. You learn so much about the community around you and the culture that you're placed in, and you also teach them a lot about American culture. So those are pretty much the 3 main goals of Peace Corps: is cultural exchange on the part of Americans, and then also cultural exchange and you bringing back your understanding of that culture to America, and then also providing the trained personnel to those countries who might not have that many college graduates. I would highly recommend Peace Corps to any of you who are interested in gaining more international experience, really interested in cultural experiences, and also if you'd like to work abroad in the future, Peace Corps is a great opportunity to sort of find a place, because it's so difficult, especially if you're trying to look for a job from the United States. It's really hard to find a job overseas, or at least it takes a lot of networking, and online it's very difficult. Whereas through Peace Corps, you serve 2 years. If you want a job in the country of service or in that region, it's pretty easy to find one. And also, it was just, I loved my experience. I made so many friends. I really feel like Mali is a second home to me now. And I really love the culture. It's challenging and sometimes it's frustrating, but in the end, it's a wonderful experience, and this is a great time in your life if you're graduating to take this opportunity, because it can get difficult later on in life. And does anyone have any questions about Peace Corps in general?
You have. This is your opportunity. You have a wealth of information here and a lot of experts. So please ask questions.
Can I mention real fast before we do general questions? We have an information meeting tomorrow at 6:30 at the International Center. Peace Corps, the application process is pretty complicated, and we have those meetings about once a month. So you can always, if you can't come to tomorrow, come another time.
Question over here.
I think you mentioned something about business in the Peace Corps. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So I was a small enterprise development volunteer and also microfinance.
What was your minor or major?
My major was economics and international affairs. So I worked with a microfinance institution, which is pretty much rural banking. And then I also worked with women's associations who each of the members were engaging in small businesses. And so I did some business skills trainings, helped them develop individual business plans to grow their businesses. And then I also engaged in a few health-related projects and construction of an athletic field. So in Peace Corps, you're assigned a sector. Half of your work, maybe more of it, might be in that sector, but you also have the opportunity to engage in secondary projects, whatever interests you and whatever your community needs.
And I'm guessing you never had a business class.
No, I never had a business class.
Other questions?
If you know that you want an internship abroad, should you start out by going to the Career Center or the Office of International Programs?
Well, the Office of International Programs runs the study abroad programs for LS&A. So if you want to study abroad for academic credit, that would be the office to go to. If you're looking for an internship that wouldn't necessarily be for credit, our office is probably the most knowledgeable. If you're interested in a specific language, German has Peggy Wunderbaum-Jensen, French has Rachel Criso, and I think most of the language departments have a specialist within the department who can help you as well.
Bill's actually not in the Office of International Programs.
Oh.
Bill's at the International Center.
Oh, okay.
So his office, which is the Overseas Opportunities Office, is in the International Center. And Bill's got peer advisors on there as well, who've been at to many of these sites.
Anna Limbrick, who's running the camera,
okay.
had an internship in Germany with CDS, and most of our peer advisors have done an internship or volunteered abroad.
Okay.
And I would say tap into all of us. I mean, that's the beauty of U of M, is that there's so many places to go. We get some postings that are international, but you've got things happening through the departments. You have things at the International Center. So actually lots of places to tap into.
People know where the International Center is?
Yeah.
Just next to the Union, so if you're standing in front of the Union on State Street, you take the first sidewalk to the left and you go right into the center.
Okay. I see a question here.
I just had a huge flashback to high school, pre-college application things where I'm hearing that it's your extracurricular stuff that really makes you appealing to companies or things like that. But let's say we can't, for whatever reason, fit that into our schedule before we graduate. Is that detrimental at all, not being able to pull off an internship while getting a degree at the same time? Does that hurt you at all, or is it limiting in any way?
I think it's all about skills, wherever you get those skills. And I think internship is sort of the buzzword that means getting career-related experience, and it could happen during a summer internship, but it's career-related experience, and it can happen in lots of different ways. It could be something that's literally labeled internship, but it could be something that you're doing volunteer. It could be something you're doing through your department. It's, from the employer perspective, getting that career-related experience under whatever umbrella it's called.
One of the things I think the Career Center can help you with a lot, sorry to ignore you guys, is helping you sort out what skills you have and what you've done. Because you've done more than you know. So for example, say you're tutoring. Wow, you can speak a language. Say that you are writing a newsletter for the Spanish club. Then you can speak a language and you can write that language. So using your skills in other ways is going to help you. I know everybody thinks internship is the magic bullet that's going to get you a job. Not necessarily.
The number one skill employers are looking for, anyone want to guess? Yeah.
Flexibility?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's on the list.
It's a very good one.
Yeah.
Communication?
That's it. Both verbal and written. And every year the list comes out of the top 10, 20 skills that they're looking for, and communication is always at the top. And I would add to that the biggest challenge is the writing skills.
Yep.
It's a major concern for employers. So the fact that you are not only developing your communication skills in your native language, but also in another language, and the ability to write will be huge.
I think you can expect as well, if you are a language major, that you might be interviewed in your language.
For the internship in France, you have to be a sophomore.
No.
On the pink sheet you have here, it says please circle your academic standing in freshman
Oh. It's because I think it's because that defines to be a freshman. Are your language skills good?
I think so.
I think the reason I didn't put it on there, it was just kind of an accidental omission. You need good language skills. Often, you know, if people are thinking about doing this early on, at that time at U of M, they usually study abroad the first summer and then maybe do an internship the next summer. And I'm not saying that it has to be that way, but no, you could apply as a freshman.
See one in the back and then over here.
For teaching English as a second language with certification, I've been on the career website. Does that mean necessarily a master's program or their certificate programs? It's very confusing on the internet because there's a lot of kind of things that just want your money for a certificate that doesn't necessarily mean anything. What is considered a valid
And I think that there's,
certificate?
Jonathan, I think there's a couple different, the word certification is used in a couple different ways. For educators, teaching with certification means people who are in the School of Ed and are getting their K through 12 certification. So I think you even have a handout that's teaching with certification, teaching without certification. But there are also certification programs for those who want to learn to teach English as a second language. That is not, that are individual programs that aren't necessarily connected with schools of ed. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes, but specifically where would you find those programs?
Yeah,
The certification?
The programs that, even for the certification programs or the programs that can send you abroad? I'm asking that because on our website, and we have a handout as well, that lists programs that send you abroad to teach English, and we call it teaching abroad without certification because these programs do not require any credential.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the programs that do require certification, and if you're not in the School of Ed now, what sort of secondary education could you do to get certification?
Well, if it's not K through 12 certification, right, because that is, that's a degree. But if it's just teaching English as a second language, there's no place you can get that locally. There are a lot of institutes overseas where you can take an intensive course for a month. But however, what you can do locally is to volunteer with the English Language Institute or the Northwood Family Housing Unit where they teach English. The English Language Institute is known around the world because they were founders of the field 50 years ago. If you volunteer and teach with them, that'll be worth a lot more than any certificate you'll get, particularly the online certificates. Because what you need is the experience, not some piece of paper.
I have a student who's actually going to Turkmenistan in the Peace Corps, and he just left, and he is teaching English as a second language in Turkmenistan as part of his Peace Corps assignment.
And the student I mentioned who's in Central America teaching doesn't have a certificate at all, and she got that job teaching English there.
I know that through the ELI there's a summer course called some number for teaching English as a second language. Like, is that just one course? Is that something that you would be able to use on the job application or resume?
That'd be terrific. And they also have courses during the terms, so you wouldn't have to, just take the course only in the summer. But I'd still recommend volunteering with them because that beats the course too.
You might look at Eastern. Question over.
This summer internship program was international representation. Is this an offer of support for other internships you might find in these countries listed here, or is I don't exactly understand what this program is.
You're talking about
the blue one. Yeah.
It's a series of internships that we're getting together right now, and the students that are selected to work in the positions will have the ability to get credit through the different departments that teach the languages.
Internships that you're identifying through this program and then students to fill.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes.
Question.
For the Peace Corps application process, when should you start looking at that?
You should start looking at it 9 to 12 months before you'd like to leave. So what year are you now?
I'm only a sophomore.
Okay. So I would say the summer of your junior year would be a good time to apply.
Okay. Summer before June? Summer year after?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, the summer before your senior year.
Okay.
If you're looking to leave in the summer. And Peace Corps programs actually leave throughout the year, so you don't have to leave in summer if you don't want to.
I'd like to say that you really can't underestimate the value of working overseas, particularly if you want to continue living overseas. I had a student who was a sociology and German major, Ryan. He got an internship after his sophomore year. By working diligently, he got another internship after his junior year. Because of his contacts with his internship, he got his own job after he graduated, and then he got admitted to an MBA program in Germany. So that kind of networking really paid off for him. Okay, any other questions that we have for our panel? Let me say thank you very much for coming tonight, and let me thank our panelists for their great information.